Welcome to our podcast, Birthing a New Humanity. I am your host, Sofia Ataya, Spirit Baby Medium. The frequency of Earth is rising, and we are being called to birth ourselves as a new humanity in alignment with the new frequency of the Earth. The children that is on their way to Earth is already embodying this new frequency. They're coming here as guides to guide us into that alignment. Hello and welcome to this episode in our podcast, Birthing a New Humanity. In this episode, we will dive in to understanding the elements, to listen to the elementary wisdom, and to dive into the messages from the elemental beings and from the elemental goddesses. I'm very happy that you are here, and I'm looking forward to share the wisdom from the elements. The elements is all that surrounds us, and as well it's all that is within us. We are made from the elements. We are the elements, and the elements is all around us. Is the earth, the water, the air, the fire, and the ether, the space. I will start to share a bit my story, how the elemental wisdom came so much into my life and was a part of my awakening to understand how we are all connected, how we are so deeply connected with the earth, and how the elements carries wisdom, and how they can transmute wisdom through the elements. And that goes for all the elemental beings, the spirits, the goddesses, the earth, the great spirit, your higher self, your spirit babies. Everything can transmute messages directly to you through the elements. I think I will start my story in my teenage years. I felt so ungrounded, so unsettled. I felt that I didn't really belong here on earth. I couldn't feel the earth underneath me. And I started to feel that I was almost floating away. And it was difficult for me to connect with the nutritionists in the earth. I didn't want to eat. I was so skinny. I was so unbalanced in my earth element. And I was too much in my air or in my ether, which was creating a huge imbalance in my life. I was floating away. What it's also created was an imbalance in my water element. I had a big imbalance with my menstrual cycle, and as I had mentioned in the other episode, that I was diagnosed with PCOS and endometriosis and cysts on my ovaries, and I didn't really have my period for many years. And when I first received it when I was 14, it was just too much. So I really had that huge imbalance in my waters within me. That was also very connected to the earth. A woman's cycle is so connected to the earth and to the moon. We follow in the rhythm. And as well my fire. I didn't knew my direction in life. Or I knew it too much and I got too attached to it and too focused. So either I had too much fire or I had too less fire. I had always find a lot of peace in my air element. I think it was because I was a lot there in my youth when I was younger. So when I bring myself up in the height, it can either be like when I'm in an airplane, or if I'm standing in a mountain top and I suddenly start to feel my breath really circling within me. I feel that I can breathe and I can stretch my eyes. I can see long and I feel so much clarity in my system. So I find this direction in life, this way. Okay. It's like the air element is kind of turning on all the other elements within me and begin to stimulate the balance, stimulate the other elements to find the balance. I will jump a bit ahead in time to the middle of my 20s. I started to work with the plant medicines, the grandmother, and she taught me a lot. She taught me about all the interconnectedness in the elements. And I suddenly start to hear the earth speaking to me, really speaking to me. I start to find a way to decode her messages, to decode her language, to really understand the frequency that she was sending out. And of course we can listen very deeply to the earth element, but she's also sending out messages through all the other elements. The elements that I started to really tune more focused into was the earth element. And it came as well when I was on my conception journey with my firstborn, when her spirit was guiding me to work with the medicine of the iboga, and I afterwards was feeling the first time in my whole life that I was really walking on the earth. I really felt, okay, wow, I'm here now, I'm landed, I'm actually landed within my own body, and I'm landed in the connection with the earth. And that sensation haven't at all left me since. And that was the moment where I really started to deepening that connection to the earth. Some years later, I went to visiting a friend in mountains in Portugal. And I remember it, I was sitting outside, it was full moon, and I only went in for sleeping. Otherwise I was sitting on that mountaintop for 5 days, and I felt the earth was speaking to me. I felt the wind was speaking to me. And it was so powerful, like she was calling me home. The day before I went back to Denmark, I was at this beautiful riverside. And I was standing in the river, and I felt the water start to talk to me and start to move my body. I have danced my whole life. When I was younger, it was more choreography and I was an actress. And then it became more free movement, and now it's really intuitive and free movement. And I was dancing in the water, and suddenly the water took over my movement and started to move my body. And I started to feel her, the water. I started to feel the goddess of the water. I started to connect with all the elemental beings of the water, and they started to speak through me. And that was my first encounter with the light language. And the first time it happened, I was so surprised, and at the same time so touched, so deep within my core. I felt her energy. I felt her energy. And I felt all the elemental beings of the water. I felt the spirit of the water was like flowing through me and expressed itself through me. So my first encounter with Portugal was a deep awakening and a deep connection to the elements of the earth, the water, and the air. They brought me here. They were whispering into my soul, and they were awakening some kind of codes within me. And it's still quite fresh, but I feel that these codes are guiding me every single day, and they start to unlock themselves. Because we have these codes within us, and when we start to connect with the elements, they start to unlock. And we are actually capable of working so closely with the elements that we can move clouds, we can move waters, we can lit a fire, or we can stop a fire. We can make the waters coming from the skies, or we can lowering the waters if the tide's getting too wild and crazy and going into tsunamis. We can calm the winds if they're going into orcans. We can calm the earth if there is a volcano that is going to explode. We can start and we can learn to work with the elements. But we have to know something very important, and that is that the elements on the earth all around us is a pure reflection of the elements inside of us, what we haven't balanced yet. And the other way around, like the earth is also mirroring us as a collective and as an individual. Maybe you have experienced that if it rains and it starts to, this flood starts to go into your home, your house, or your toilet starts to flush up with water. Or maybe there is a fire starting on your own home. All this is a very personal reflection. And then there is the bigger reflections, when there is a wildfire or a tsunami going on the earth. It's reflect the collective, but it's also reflecting the individual. It's always like that. We have to take personal responsibility. So after my first visit in Portugal, I came back to Denmark, and there was no way back. I started to pack all my stuff, and I started to do all the things I need to do in order for me to be able to move away from Denmark and go to Portugal. And that was a huge jump for me. I went through so many processes of letting go and detach and allowing myself to really step out of my comfort zone. And I promise you, it was so uncomfortable in so many ways. And at the same time, there was no way back. I really felt that I almost have jumped out in a waterfall. You cannot climb back in a waterfall. You just have to let go and surrender and let the flow take you. So I tried that all the time, even though that image of the waterfall keep coming back to my mind. Okay, I'm in the waterfall right now. There is nothing to do. Surrender, surrender, surrender. And keep going with that flow of detachment. And I was to let go of my apartment. I have to let go of my job. I had to let go of the kindergarten that my kids were in. And that was one of the big ones. Okay, I am now letting go of the kindergarten. I take my kids out of the system to be able to follow this call. And all the thoughts, is it the right thing for my kids? And is it the right thing for my family? And at that point I was a single mom. And what about the dad? And all these questions that was just keep coming up. But I was in a waterfall. I couldn't climb back. I just have to walk with the guidance. So I did that. And the day after, I have booked our flight ticket one way to Portugal. I met a man that I fell in love with, and we are together now. I have been together for more than 2 years. And he was ready for this adventure, for this journey. And it was incredible, right? I had to go through all these releases and allowing myself to fall into the waterfall in order for us to meet, and to allowing this mission, this journey to meet and to unfold. So we went to Portugal, and we are still here more than 2 years after. So I want to come back to the story of the element and how they was there to guide me and to awaken me. So what just happened a month ago was that the fire came to where we live in Portugal. We have experienced fires already 3 times in different places in Portugal. And I have felt how this fire was awakening an anxiety and a fear and restlessness and stress and all these super uncomfortable feelings within me. Especially the fear was so strong. And I noticed that I actually had a huge fear for fire. So I started to discover that fear a bit more. Where does it come from? What is it about? And I remember when I was a child, my dad had it as well. He was so afraid of fire. And I even remember, like, when he went to bed, he needed to go and blow out all the candles because he couldn't sleep with the knowing that there was a candle in the living room, and he went to bed even though that I was awake or my mom was awake. He needed to blow them all out. And I felt his fear so strongly when I was a kid. So I might have picked that up. We usually do that, right? When we are children, we're picking up the fear from our caregivers, our parents, our friends, our siblings. It goes as well with water. So many parents are afraid when their kids goes into the water. I was as well. Oh my God, I have to really going through a lot of layers of releasing that fear of water, especially when my kids was in the water. But they teach me so much because they love water and they love to swim and they love to be in water. And I just have to let go and surrender and trust. And I'm there, of course, to look after them. But they are on a journey. But I could see how my fear, like, so literally I was afraid that they should drown in the water. And they picked up that fear. So in the beginning, they didn't dare to go into the water. They were so afraid of the water as well. And that makes me feel so sad because the water is amazing. And I remember when I was a kid, I loved being in the water. I was a professional swimmer and I was a diver as well. I have deep dived. So I just have to sit there with them and allow them to come into the water in their own pace. Breathe. Allow myself to be in the water. So releasing fears from the elements, it's a big thing. And I will invite you as well to take a moment and close your eyes. And just feeling inside of yourself, ask yourself the question, am I afraid of the elements? Or which elements am I afraid of? And how does that fear shows up in my life? Take a moment to be with these questions. I will dive a bit deeper into the fire element, especially because of that wildfire that was here a month ago in the area where we live. So the fire element can show itself in many ways. In a very physical expression, like a fire. And that fire can be controlled or uncontrolled. And that goes as well within you. Your inner fire can be contained, controlled, or it can be completely destructive and uncontrolled. And that destruction can both show itself like an outer expression, like your full on almost rage of anger, but it's not a rage. It can show itself like this aggression, like what almost feels like something inside of you are taking over, that you're getting so aggressive. And for some people it goes into violence, like hitting and shooting and kicking and, real physical violence. It can also go into emotional violence, where you're using your words to be violent on another being. Or it can go inwards, where you're so destructive on yourself. You're like using your fire in a very self-destructive way. Or it can go in, like when a candle burns out, as a burnout. If you're not using your fire in a way where you're creating an alignment with your soul's purpose, you burn out. And it can go into, fatigue, where you're just completely tired all the time. Your fire is burned out. That's more the inner feelings of the fire. And then there is the spiritual, energetic feeling, communication with the fire element, where we can go in and tuning into that energy that the fire is carrying. Before I got pregnant with my youngest, I felt the fire so strong. And I really feel that was my fire initiation, the first one. I have been going through quite a lot of fire initiations as well. And that was my first one. I felt the fire, like a ball of fire was entering my body. And it was so intense. And there was this tiny bit of fear that was arising inside of me. I literally felt her spirit as a ball of fire. And in the beginning of my pregnancy, I was so sure that it was a boy. Actually, I was so sure until almost the end of my pregnancy that my baby was a boy. But she's a girl. And I'm pretty sure it was because it was this so strong fire energy. Sometimes we can misunderstanding the fire energy as a strong masculine energy, because the fire is very connected to the masculinity, as well as the sun is very connected to the masculine, and the moon is very connected to the feminine. So we have the waters in the feminine and the fire in the masculine, but we all have all of them. And the way I actually started to feel the fire is like a goddess. It's like a woman. It's a female goddess energy of the fire. But I will come into that in a bit. I'll come back to my pregnancy with my youngest. So she was this ball of fire in my womb. And I was like, it's a phoenix, and that name came so strongly to me, even though at that point I didn't knew at all what she would bring into my life, but I felt her energy as a phoenix energy. So I called her Phoenix my whole pregnancy. And when she was born, I actually think it was 1 week or something before her birth, I was like, hey, wait a minute, I don't think it's a boy. I think it is a girl. I was keep calling her Phoenix and was talking to her and connected deeply with her energy. And she's carrying a lot of that phoenix energy. And I just knew, when I was pregnant with her, I was like, I'm gonna have my child will have red hair. I felt this fire energy was going into her development of her physical being. And yes, she have red hair. And she have that in her red hair skin as well. And in her birth, she was a bit stalked in the side, or actually she was not stalked. It was because she had the umbilical cord around her neck. So I was talking with her and I kind of knew it's all okay. Her little fire spirit, she will make her way when it's the right time. And she did that. Like she was not even engaged into my pelvis when I started to have the strong birth contractions. But she did the move when she was still lying up there and all the way down into my hands. She was doing this move within 5 minutes. With her strong, fiery energy, she just took the whole travel down. And when I received her, it was like receiving a ball of fire that came up to me through the waters. And since he was born, literally everything that is not meant to be in my life anymore is not there anymore. She is burning everything away. And I say she is burning everything away. It's the energy that she came in with. It's that fiery ball of light that is just erase what is not longer serve us and serve me, serve her and serve the earth. When I was still pregnant with her, I have so deep previous lives experiences that I was undergoing with her as well, and there was a lot of fire in these previously experiences that we have had together, and a lot of them was about fire. And to talk a bit about that fire as well, what I also work with and what I also connect very deeply into is like soul groups. I strongly believe that we are arriving here on earth as a soul groups, and there is a soul group that is coming now that I sometimes refer to as the New Earth Children. And then there is another soul group that my daughter is a part of, and I call them the Phoenix Rising Generation, and they are literally here to wake up the fire. And so many of them have one thing in common, that in a previous life they died in a fire as a kid. So they were themselves only had a very short time here as a kid. They died in a fire as a kid, and now they are returning to bring balance into the fire element on the earth. They have individual missions and purposes as well, but that this is their collective purpose, to restore elemental balance, and their focus is especially on the fire element. So these children are also very headstrong, very determined. These kids, you cannot trick them to do anything. They know what they want. They say no if they don't want. They're strong in the boundaries, and they're very determined, and it can be very difficult sometimes and challenging to be a parent to a very headstrong and a very fiery kid. And that will be another podcast about the Phoenix Rising Generation. So she has been a huge part for me in my awakening in my fire element, and to deepening that connection and to come into balance. So a month ago, we had a crazy wildfire here where I live. I wasn't here. We was on holiday in Denmark when the fire started, and I went through phases. The first phase where I felt their anxiety. The stress was rising inside of me. I felt that the fire was stirring up in my unbalanced fire. And this is what the elements are doing, right? If we're not balanced, they're mirroring our imbalance. And I was in this channel, this group. So I was keep receiving all these messages of how it went with the fire and how it spreads and where the fire was now, and all that keep coming in on my phone. And I got even more and more stressed and fearful and anxious. And then my partner, he said, you have to put that phone away. You need to put that phone away. There's nothing you can do right now. Otherwise, you go into it energetically and you breathe with it and you sit with it. And I was so happy that he helped me right there to get a bit out of this anxiety and to say, okay, wow, yes, this is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to put my phone away and I'm going to sit with it, to tune in to the fire and to the earth, the core of the earth. So I did that. And then she was rising. I felt her. The elemental goddess of the fire. She came through me. I saw her. And she started to speak through me in her language, in the deep caves underground the earth. She's living there. And now she's rising, and she was doing her sacred rage to wake up humanity. She was waking me up a lot. And she started to show me a grid, an elemental grid of earth codes, of elemental codes that we can learn to work with, that we can connecting with, and learn the wisdom from the elements and learn to work with the elements. So I was working constantly, non-stop, in 48 hours, connecting with the grid of the codes, connecting with the elements, communicating with the elements, reorganizing, and talking directly with the goddess of the fire in her small windows between the rages. And this part of me that was so frustrated of not being down here in the fire, and at the same time so grateful because I'm not sure that I could have connected and worked so deeply energetically if I was in the fire. But now I was a bit away, so it was easier for me to step out of my fear and step into the energetic work. So I'd like to talk and share a bit about how we can integrate the elemental wisdom in our daily life, and how we can opening up for this connection, and how we can work on balancing the elements within us. And this is not a new thing, it's very ancient, right? We all know Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, Qigong, yoga, and a lot more, right? There is working with the elemental wisdom, and that is working to find where there is balance and imbalance. So of course there's so much wisdom there that you can dive into to understand that imbalance and balance, and how to balancing your inner elements. And on a daily basis, tend to your diet. And again, we can search for knowledge in Ayurveda and Chinese medicine how to balance our diet so it's suitable to how to balance the elements within us. For me, I find it very helpful to just do the small things during a day. I usually do like a breath work, awareness meditation in the morning. And then I connect with the fire. I just lit a candle. And when it's winter time, I make a fire. And the whole summer season, I go into the river. I dip my whole body into the river. Oh, I take a long, soothing shower. And just allowing the warm water to cleanse me and to nourish me. And I walk barefoot on the earth. And especially when I'm doing gardening, that's the moment where I really feel that I connect. That's the thing I do on a daily basis. And then I also really want you to recommend to go deeper into connecting with their language, the language of the elements. And that's different how we are expressing ourselves. I like to move and to dance, to put my feet in the river and to start to dance, allowing the energy of the water to move my body. Maybe you know the 5 rhythm. They're working with movement and elements. It's a beautiful way to connecting with the elements through your movement. You can use your voice, connecting with the elements and allowing the elements to sing through you. Play with it. It's fun. It's freeing. And it's bringing that feeling of connectedness. And then of course rituals and prayers. Yeah, I want to make a link, a connection to the spirit baby communication. And if you're on that journey in conception or pregnancy or after a loss and feel the call to connect with your spirit baby, then I will invite you to tune into the elements. As I shared earlier on, spirits are communicating with you through the elements. So opening up to listen, to attuning to the elements, you can start to receive messages from your spirit baby as well. Allowing them to communicating with you through the elements, and that goes as well in the elements around you on the earth and in the elements within you. As I was sharing my youngest, she came like this ball of fire and she was communicating with me through the fire. And my oldest daughter, she was communicating with me through the waters within me. I was so fine-tuned that she went into my cells in my body, and then she was communicating through my blood in my body, through like all that energy that was moved by the waters in my body and my system. Yes. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast about the wisdom from the elements. It's a huge topic, and I definitely feel the call to dive deeper into it. And if you feel called to dive deeper into the connection with your spirit baby and the other work that I'm doing, you're super welcome to go on my website. It's sofiaataya.com, and in there you can see all my services. And I have a lot of meditations, free meditations that you can use at any time. Thank you so much for listening. It's an honor for me to be here. I wish you a beautiful day.